Stop the cap.
I'm going to tell you what I'm no longer accepting from black people, because this has been a problem over the years, and we have wasted a tremendous amount of time with this sort of circumstantial, stereotypical, type of assessment when we gauge things. So I had a woman, respond to me, basically say, that, black men going to Africa for, wives is bullshit, especially going to Ghana. I just did a simple Google search. Top places that black men go, single black men go. Ghana was at the top of it. I also went online and looked at the places that people go for sex tourism. Funny thing about sex tourism is white men were the first sex tourists, and black men pretty much followed suit. In terms of the countries that they go to, Thailand, Philippines, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Venezuela was it for a while, but then that fell off. Brazil, all these sorts of nations. And I already said that because the rest of the world is lighter than black people, the colorism label on a black man going anywhere other than Africa is basically impossible to avoid. I mean, literally impossible to avoid. Right? But there's still, in my opinion, there's still nuances to the situation, because I'm like, why don't black men go to Saudi Arabia? Why don't black men go to South Korea? Why don't black men, go to Bulgaria, right? Or any place that is conservative, which you already know African countries are conservative. If you think you're going to do like that, whatever that brother's name is, the one that got kicked out of Brazil and the woman was screaming he's down there for sex tourism and sex trafficking and he left the country. Yeah, again, you go and you do some fuck shit like that, and you're making it known and you're posting videos and you're embarrassing the people. Africans got a lot of pride. You know what I mean? Like, they ain't gonna fly. Then you start sprinkling in, religion. You trying that, and 50% of Africa is Muslim. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Ain't a whole bunch of pussy to be had. Maybe you might get away with it in the major metropolitan areas, but I'm saying if you just want some ass, you know what I mean? Thailand, freaking Philippines, and Colombia, DR, where these women are walking around in bathing suits half naked, that's the place to go. That's the place to be. But like I said, it's the colorism label is almost inescapable because of what those what those women look like. And plus, on top of that, proximity is a big factor. It's easier to catch a flight to the DR than it is to catch a flight and go to Kenya. So that's another reason. That was the same argument when it came to, brothers dating white women. I've always firmly believed that, most black men would prefer to be with, a Latina with some more color than to be with some basic Becky. You know what I mean? But we live in America. Basic Beckys are everywhere. There's parts of this country where you won't. It's not New York. New York, you got your pick of the litter. Any nationality you want, it will be in New York. You know what I mean? Oh, what's your girlfriend? Oh man, my girlfriend, she's from Uzbekistan. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you could do that in New York. You can't do that in Mississippi. You can't do that in the rural parts of Georgia. You know what I mean? It's literally only white people and black people there. So part of it has to do with proximity, and availability. But like one thing I want to know is how many of these women that are being classified, for black men, that is, how many of these women are actually African American? It's like when we go and we talk about this with the foundational Black American stuff and the educational stuff, right? Like this is what's funny, right? Nigerian Americans are Americans until we get to talking about who has all the PhDs. Then all of a sudden, the media and everybody else, we gotta separate that out. This is a Nigerian American accomplishment, right? But funny how if an African American married a Nigerian woman, now all of a sudden she's just another African American woman. I'm saying that's how it's going to play out. 85% of black men marry black, and how many of those women are actually African American and not, something else? Just so that we know how many of them are Jamaican American, how many of them are Haitian American. You know what I mean? One of the guys that lives next to me, he's a he's like a engineer or whatever, and his wife is Haitian. Got Haitian, got two half Haitian daughters and whatnot. You know what I mean? So I'm like, where does that fall? What statistic does that fall under? And this is a guy that has already admitted to me, oh man, I was running through white bitches in college, man. He was, just track and field running through them. But when he got married, he married a freaking, a Haitian woman, a woman from Haiti. I don't know where they met. I don't know if they met after college or in the workspace. I don't know where they met or what, he was traveling or something like that. But he's married to a Haitian woman. So I'm just saying, what are the numbers on that? And the reason why I think that's important is because it's just like with the whole median man situation. And throwing up the numbers and, me diving in and looking at the numbers, there's 1.79 million more black women than black men. But yet, after crunching the numbers, there's about 10 million black men who are childless and about 8.4 million black women who are childless. So you have almost 2 million more, or let's just go with the actual number, 1.79 million more black women than black men, but yet you have almost 2 million, or more than 2 million, black men who are childless compared to black women, which means that black women are sharing men. Why is that important? Because for a long time, we were running around with these narratives as though the ratios were 1-to-1. I remember I was getting arguments with sisters. If there's a black woman who's a single mother, that means that there's a black man that's a father, right? That's true, but that presumed, right? That presumed that all the men out here, as many single mothers as you have black men, that are fathers. But we found out that that's not the case, because we found out that you have women who are sharing men. And now, granted, that helps, black men's argument. That works in black men's favor. Doesn't work in black women's favor. But it changes a lot of the conversation when black women go off and, want to foam at the mouth and, run with the narrative of the black male deadbeat dad and, all that shit. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Y'all out here producing way more babies than we are. It changes the narrative on, who's truly sexually irresponsible as a group. Right? But that's because we got the, we got the numbers on that shit. Same thing with the, Jenks Morton. There's more black men in jail than there are in college. And you go and you pull up the numbers, it's not true. But everybody was so comfortable with that. Of course. I mean, when you go and you watch that Jenks Morton video, they're just like, of course there's more black men in jail than there are in college. Of course. Just as a matter of factly. Just throwing out, shit that's untrue. You see the same thing with the black, why are black women single? Oh, because black men are in jail. It's less than 1% of the population of black men that are in prison. That's not the reason why you single. But yet they'll run around and act like, like 50% of the black community of black men is in jail. That's why I can't find a man, because all our men are in jail. Black women were running around with that forever. No numbers, no stats, just some mythological statement that everybody's just comfortable saying because they like, just shitting on black men because everything is black men's fault. What are the numbers? And I'm saying, I'm trying to do the research just as much as expecting you to do the research if you're going to come on my page and you're going to throw all this circumstantial evidence around about, what you see and what's going on and this, that, and the third. It's just like, it reminds me of like when I was with this very dark-skinned black woman from the Caribbean, and we went out a couple times, and I thought that it would just be like white women that would like try to pull some bullshit, right? But what was funny is the black women never tried to pull any bullshit, but the black women that would see us, like when we would walk down the sidewalk and stuff like that, we would get all type of strange looks from them. And she basically said that it's because me being with her challenges the narrative in their head. Because they want to believe that, it's colorism. But then when I'm standing next to a black woman who's midnight black and we're walking down the street, as a couple, that throws the whole narrative off. And they didn't like that. They wanted to be, colorism, these niggas is colorist, da-da-da-da-da. And then here I am walking with her, in heels and makeup. And again, not an African-American woman. And see, now other factors start coming into play. Chick, maybe you just not attractive. Or maybe you would be attractive if you styled your hair right or wore the right outfit or wore some heels like what she's wearing. All the above. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of black women don't want to make the changes. So colorism it is the go-to. It is the go-to. And as long as it's colorism, shit doesn't have to change. And you know how I know it's bullshit? You know how I know a lot of this shit is bullshit? Because even the games that black women play when it comes to their own beauty. India Arie versus Amber Rose. You know what I'm saying? Or India Arie versus Alicia Keys, right? Or Alec Weck, versus, I don't know, that's insert woman, some biracial, Alec Weck versus Beyonce or something like that. See, Cap doesn't play that game. Cap will go out there, and this is the mistake that brothers make when these women do these like freaking, intentionally setting up the ugly girl arguments. They'll go and they'll intentionally get a black woman who even they deem as unattractive, and then try to have some sort of self-hate litmus test. He'll go and grab, they'll grab Alec Weck, and Cap will be like, no. What about Nina Akbar? He's like, okay, dark skin, check. Bald headed, check. You know what I'm saying? Skinny, check. Okay, now what you got to say? This woman is better looking than Alec Weck. Now what you got to say? You know what I'm saying? Why go and grab a woman that is obviously, unattractive, right? Why go and grab a woman like that when you could have grabbed, better women? Another thing I've caught a black woman doing is, acting like there's no such thing as fat light-skinned women or overweight light-skinned women. I caught a woman doing this on Instagram where she was like, well, the average woman is 170 to 220 pounds. And the funny thing is, it's like they want to focus on the colorism aspect. Oh, black men, y'all going out here. Black men are not going out here and getting light-skinned women that are 170 to 220 pounds. And I'm saying those women exist, and they're being rejected. You know what I mean? But that gets ignored. And then they'll try to make some hypothetical argument. Well, I bet that if there was a 190 pound black woman and a 190 pound light skinned woman, the niggas would go for the light skinned woman. Then you get into all these sort of hypothetical scenarios. I'm just saying, why sabotage the argument like that? If you're really trying to prove, some self-hatred. But like I said, where black men will fail is black men, we go out there and we don't have, dark-skinned women on deck to be like, nah, that's not a bad bitch. This is a bad bitch. We don't create the standard. And truth be told, black women don't create a standard either for themselves. And they don't want to. Because as long as the shit is just vague and nebulous. They can always throw, colorism up there. They don't have to live up to any sort of standard. Like, we know what the white standard of beauty is. You know what I mean? And then all other white women are a derivative of whatever the white girl is of the day. And that's what it is, right? And that's what would happen if a black beauty standard was actually established, right? But a lot of black women, they don't want a black beauty standard to establish, because then they can keep things vague and nebulous, and say that the women at completely opposite ends of the spectrum are 10s. And that's what goes on. And I don't know why sisters do that. I've been trying to figure out why sisters do that. My personal opinion, they don't want a standard to be established. They want it to be, we can go fall back on self-hatred, because that way nobody falls in or out. You get what I'm saying? If we say Keke Palmer is the standard, let's go with that. Let's say Keke Palmer is the standard of beauty for black women. So, okay, what does that mean for black women who clearly don't look like her, aren't even in the ballpark of her? See, now that means that they're unattractive or less attractive or possibly even ugly, because depending on how far off they are from Keke Palmer being the standard. And I'm just using her as an example. You can insert, whatever black woman that you want. But what I notice is, like, a lot of black women, they want to keep, the doors on, what a beautiful black woman is. They want to keep that shit wide open. So wide open that they fail to be able to protect their own, black female identity or beauty, for that matter. It's already bad enough that, they let the biracial women in and then kick them out at their convenience. But then it's also bad, that, they try to act like, black beauty is this nebulous thing that can't be even remotely defined. It's like, goddamn, can I at least get a silhouette? Can I get a silhouette? You know what I mean? Like, don't be trying to bring in, like, even with a silhouette, they'll be trying to bring in a fat shadow. And you'll be like, nah, yo, that ain't it. That ain't it. Jill Marie Jones, she still looks good, but like Jill Marie Jones in her prime, is that the standard? I'm just saying, there's a lot of women that they don't want there to be a standard, right? If you ask me, the standard is this like mixed fiction bullshit, with all these black women that you see, from Scarlett to Glorilla with all that, laid down baby edges and wearing all these lace front wigs and shit like that. The wig shit is just, it's just over the top. Like, it doesn't even look natural. You know what I mean? Like, black women were not doing that shit in the 80s or the 90s. It was not that. You know what I mean? But now it's just like, y'all be running around with this, wearing imitation white women's hair that just don't even suit you. Should be platinum blonde and shit is crazy. But I'm just saying, I want to know what the numbers are. I'm tired of people just sucking their fingers, sticking it in the air, and I feel that it's this way based on what I see on television and what's in the media. I'm like, nah, but what are the actual numbers? We already know media, again, when media throws black women underneath the bus, they want to question it. This ain't true. This is negative stereotypes. This is that. Right? But when there's negative stereotypes about black men or shit that we're trying to challenge, y'all act like, we just taking that as fact. So if you turn on the television, yeah, you would think that, colorism is the order of the day, and that black men out here, 50% of the black population is out here, with white women. These are the type of numbers that black women were throwing up when I first came online. And when it comes to the dating population, people want to say, what are black men? What are the numbers on people dating? I don't know. But you don't know either. Right? Or they'll come through and they'll when it comes to the dating numbers, they'll say, oh, black men, all these accusations of, I just think they just want to fuck dark-skinned women, like that type of shit. Like, I'm like, again, every scenario is going to be where the dark-skinned women doesn't win. And again, like I said, when I was dating the Caribbean, extremely dark-skinned woman, and, it was like, black women didn't want to accept that reality either. And trust me, please believe, if you're an African American man, if you go out here and you get a woman from a different country, the women are going to switch the argument to, and if she is dark, they're going to switch the argument to featureism, or they're going to switch the argument to culturalism, that they're not the same culture, so it doesn't count. Because even Cap has already experienced that. They will try that. They will throw up, that she's that black man being with that black woman doesn't count because she's not really African American. They will try that shit. If they can't use the colorism argument, it'll be a culturalism argument, or it will be a featureism argument, guaranteed. This argument has already been tried, on Amara La Negra. This argument has been tried on Lupita Nyong'o, of all people. Like, if you compared a woman like, Tarana Burke and her features, right, versus Lupita Nyong'o, right? Or we could go Lupita Nyong'o versus Alek Weck, two short-haired, bald at times, black women. And they'll sit there and they'll be like, no, Lupita wins because her features are smaller, right? And that's another game that Cap doesn't play because, again, these women are African. And this is the argument that the East Africans love to make when African Americans, try to push them out of the black group, right? Even though I would argue, they still have mixed backgrounds, but the one thing that they do say, is that Africa is not a monolith. So you go down there to South Africa. Every time I see these videos of South African, native people, and then people are more interested in the fact that their click language, and I'm like, that's not what I'm even paying attention to. I'm actually more amazed at how Asian they look. I'm like, these people are the original Asians. Straight up. If it wasn't for their texture of hair, you would think that you were looking at a Chinese man, an old Chinese man. Because their faces usually get all wrinkled up, because they, out there in the sun and whatnot. And they're typically not as dark, as their, Bantu, Zulu brethren. But I'm just saying, I want more black people. People want to say things. They want to say, oh, well, that's not true, or this is not true. Give me some numbers. What? Give me something. Don't just sit there and just throw some shit out there, because, again, already with 85% of black men marrying black women, I don't see what you're talking about, with this stuff. Again, sex tourism, and I don't even want to call it marriage tourism, but when men are looking, to get married, you can't conflate those two things. You got guys here. I'll throw this on the table. You got guys, right? Because I said, a lot of black men start, their relationships. Let's say a guy's an EL. He goes over to, whatever, the Philippines. He develops his first sexual experience, in Southeast Asia. He might have an affinity, for Asians from that point, because that's the first person that he linked up with. That's why you get people, you ever notice, like, when they first start engaging sex, all the next subsequent boyfriends and girlfriends tend to look like the first one, type of shit. But anyway, I'm saying, you got brothers, they go over there and they get burned, and then they come back, and these will be the black men that'll typically be like, man, all these women are the same. Now all of a sudden their rhetoric is a more balanced approach because they got burned. They're not they got burned out of their, delusion of, things are better over here. You know, it just depends. But when it comes to, the sort of arguments that people make, these generalized arguments that are unsubstantiated, and they're just like based off of television, media, circumstantial evidence. It's just like, oh, I'm like, Shawnee O'Neal. When the woman asked her, she was like, how come, Wendy Williams asked her, how come there aren't more white women on, Basketball Wives? And she was like, well, there aren't that many white women, married to freaking NBA players like that. You let people tell it. When I first came online, it was all the NBA players have white wives. All the NFL players have white wives. And then Shawnee O'Neal basically was like, there ain't that many that are with, white women like that. Because Wendy was like, I want to see some ratchet white women. Why's it got to be just black women up there acting ratchet? And when the numbers were basically brought out, it was like 75% of the NBA, are with black women. But yet black women, their perception of it is that all these men are out here with white women. And it comes down to the profile that these men have, that are presented up there. I've always felt the way about Reggie Bush. I don't think the cameras would be following Reggie Bush around if Reggie Bush originally wasn't with Kim Kardashian. They wouldn't have cared. Donovan McNabb, I don't know if he recently got divorced or not, but I'm saying Donovan McNabb was married for his wife to his wife for years. The Eagles quarterback, for a very long time. Donovan McNabb, the cameras never followed around Donovan McNabb and was like, oh, let's take pictures of you and your wife. Most of the black athletes with their black wives, you won't see, because those white controlled magazines, Sports Illustrated or whatever the hell it is, whoever's taking all these photos and stuff, the paparazzi don't give a fuck about a black woman being on a black man's arm. And that's unfortunate, but that plays into a lot of, people's psyche, especially black women. And I do think that black men need to do something in terms of their own media promotion to counter this. Black men who are married to black women, black men who have black daughters should care about this fact. You think white men would allow, let's say we was Wakanda, a bunch of white men would allow a bunch of black men only highlighting their relationships with African women, leaving their white women feeling some type of way? Hell no. But yet African American men, we allow that to happen. But like I said, there's a lot of black women that engage in like some sort of psychological resistance because they don't want there to be a standard. Even if a black man is with a black woman, they try to create a disqualifier, come up mentally with a disqualifier. Well, she's not African American. So the fuck what? You can't sit there and disqualify and say, oh, she's not African American, and then argue when it comes to colorism that dudes are colorist because they're not in Africa. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that this woman that left the comment did that, but I'm saying I've seen black women do that. I'm like, one woman's, saying, oh, it doesn't matter because she's not African. And then another woman, will use colorism and say, well, how come black men aren't going to Africa? I'm like, wait a minute. Like, do these African women qualify or do they not qualify? You know what I mean? Or like I said, the conversation will go to, featureism or something. Dude goes off and gets, a woman from Rwanda, because from what I've seen, many of the women that are in Rwanda, don't have the broadest features. Funny thing is that guy that whatever, got chased out of Brazil or whatever, last video I saw of him, he's in like somewhere in East Africa, I think it was Rwanda, had a girl in the back seat of the cab. I'm like, oh, look at this, she's cute. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's just the whole trying to satisfy, black women in this conversation. It just seems pointless. I personally don't like the slander. You know what I mean? I don't like the slander with no substantial evidence. just a whole bunch of circumstantial, what I seen in the media, what I felt, I sucked my finger and stuck it in the air and the breeze told me that black men were this way. I don't like that shit. I'm like, y'all need to come with something. Give me some type of numbers where I'd be like, oh, okay, let's examine that. Let's look at that. And we can start off with how many African Americans of the 85% that are married to black women are married to women who are not African American, who are first generation something else, right? Is that first generation, or what would you call that? I don't think it's first generation. That are immigrants. Because I see more black men walking around with immigrant black women than I do black men walking around with bitches from Colombia and Venezuela and talking about, ay, papi. Like, yeah, in the Northeast, you'll see that, but those women are from here. If I go to Rahway, if I go to Perth Amboy, you know what I'm saying? If I go to East Orange, if I go to Union City, like, that's like Patterson, forget about it. Patterson's like all Dominican. Forget about it, right? So, sound Italian right there. Forget about it, right? But I'm saying, not all of North Jersey is massive amounts of Hispanics. There's more Latinos than black people. So I expect to see that when I'm there. You know what I mean? But you go down to like South Florida, you will see quite a few half African American and half Haitian children. You know what I mean? So I don't know where y'all get this. Like, the way that y'all say, like, the way that y'all talk about colorism. You know what I mean? And maybe there needs to be a different word, desirabilityism, whatever it is that you're feeling. But when y'all run around, y'all talk about, it's colorism, and then we look at who black men actually marry. They're not marrying. The majority of black men are not marrying white women. Not even close. But for some reason, there's like this narrative of white skin and color and all this other shit. And I'm like, can I get something more substantial than that? Than just these accusations? But, and then, like I said, you want to talk about media, you want to talk about, television and shit like that. I'll give you that, because I agree. If you just sat there and watched that all day, oh yeah, it would just be nothing but colorism. Same with the rappers that y'all like to elevate all the time. Yeah, they putting exoticals, in their music videos and all that shit. But when it comes to, who's actually marrying these women, like, even when it comes to black men who are wealthy and have money and resources, the majority of them are marrying black women. But, then it'll come, oh, well, how what is their complexion? How light are they? Right? And I'll concede to the point that there's probably more light-skinned women up there, disproportionately up there. You know what I mean? But the way that y'all come through, like woe is the black woman, and nobody's choosing the black woman, and da-da-da. I don't see where that is in reality. On television, y'all got my respects all day. But in reality, I see black couples everywhere I go. I don't see, what you all constantly are claiming that you see. And then when I ask, what are the numbers? Give me something. Y'all can't give me anything. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.